Okay, well, 8:45, so I'm not sure, can everybody hear me? Yeah? All good? Maybe just not Brendan. Brendan, can you hear? No, he'll have to figure that out. Okay, so today we're going to do skill 2, talk to people you find. I know that we'd all probably love to talk about celebration, and we've got the beautiful Janie on, but we're not going to talk about it till they come home and they're all with us and they can share all the awesome things that happened when they're back and recovered, and we'll spend some time doing that, and I can't wait for that. That'll be awesome. So tonight we're going to do the skill of talk to people you find, and then at the end we're just going to quickly run over the $1 million challenge that Isagenix has just put out. So tonight we're so lucky to have Danny, who's going to be our guest presenter, back by popular demand. So he's going to come in with a few of his own little bits. So the skill of talking to people we find really should be the easiest skill we have, because we talk to people every day, but this can be a skill that trips us up and trips the best of us up. And I think the biggest point is that we need to not overcomplicate this skill, because we all do it. We all talk to people every day. It's not hard and it's simple, and we need to keep it simple and get out of our own way sometimes. Just realize it's just talking to people. It's just a natural thing to do. So, you know, if you are having trouble with what should you say, when should you say it, how do you make conversation with people, a good place to start is with the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. I know a lot of us have read this, and if you haven't, it's a really good read and a really good place to have some practical steps just to be able to communicate and talk to people. So just a little basic quick summary of one of the sections that has some really good points is, you know, 1, become genuinely interested in other people. 2, to smile. 3, to remember a person's name, because we all know that that's the sweetest sound anybody can hear. 4, be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Everybody wants to talk about themselves, so we really need to encourage that. 5 is to talk in terms of the other person's interests. And 6 is to make the other person feel important, and to do this really sincerely. There's no point, you know, pretending that you think the other person's important, because they will feel that. So we really need to concentrate on putting the importance on them. So as we move into our conversations, something that is good to have in the back of our head is the first step we're going to do is find common ground. So these are not yet Isagenix conversations. These are just about talking to people and having conversations. So a really good acronym to follow, to have in the back of your mind, is FORM, F-O-R-M. So the common ground you can find in this is family, occupation, recreation, and money. And pretty much with every person that you ever will talk to, you're going to be able to find common ground somewhere here. So with having that, you know, that idea of finding common ground in your head, we need to step forward and talk about our opening lines, and, you know, what sort of questions are we going to ask? Because we all know that the magic is asking the right questions that lead to Isagenix. So I'm going to hand it over to Danny, and he's going to talk about opening lines and questions, and some really important different things, and probably a little bit different take that Danny has on the world. So we'll take it away.
Thanks, Jess. Hi everyone, how are you going tonight? I've lost my spot already. Good start. I want to talk tonight about one of my little theories. That's my role in our little business. I do theories, metaphors, and minimal movement dancing as my three role. My theory tonight is something I picked up 10 years ago when I was watching people get off the tube in London. Back then it was just earphones and a paper. They just pile on the train, no one would talk, and off they'd pile again. And nowadays everyone's got a phone, so everyone piles onto the trains with their phones, piles back off, no one talks. There's very little communication. I think we've become a society that asks one question, like, how are you going today? And the other person says, I'm good, how are you? Yeah, I'm good, and that's where it stops. And I think if we can get into a habit of asking 4 questions of everyone we meet, we can knock down a lot of those barriers. Get the weather question out of the road first up, get you started, then move on to something that's happening. For instance, I went to the football on the weekend. The old guy at the gate, we had a nice talk about the weather, took back and forth about the questions, and I got through to about 3 questions. I was testing myself out, and I got my 4th question, which I hadn't moved forward in the line. My 4th question would have been, I remember when I was a kid, these winters were wet like this. How do you remember the winters when you were a kid? It would have sparked the old fellow into conversation for about an hour, I think. That's sort of those sort of questions. When I got further into the ground, I got round to the canteen, and I tried the same in the canteen. I said, "Can I have a coffee, please?" And she got me a coffee. And I could see people working behind her. And I said, "Got an army back there. What's going on?" She said, "Oh, we're making sandwiches for the day." And I'd seen her light up. Oh, that's interesting. I failed to continue to ask questions, and instantly I could see her face change. She looked over my head back at the football, and that was it. It closed down the conversation. So that's my theory, is that get these 4 questions into your range straight away. Every time you meet someone, fire them out there. From those 4 questions, I'd like to think that you've hit some sort of common ground. And when you practice the skill, it gets better and better. And at some point there, you're going to be able to just move into a common question, which I think Shaz might have some common questions further on. Does anyone in the crew got any of those starter questions that they'd like, or any theories that they have about how to talk to people?
Emily, I was going to say, if someone puts their hand up, we can't see it, so people might just have to have their go. So Nino, was that you? You're going to give us some of your opening line questions?
It's not even just I know it's a bit of it's not even an open question. It's just more how I present myself. I'll be really present with a person. I'll be paying attention to them. Smiling, and just really giving off energy. That I really want to have a conversation with them. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good point. The energy that we put out there is going to attract the conversation and get people talking to us. So that's a really good point, Nino. So does anybody else have some opening lines or some questions that they like to lead with that get people really talking?
Yeah, Danny, I really loved how you were speaking there about asking the guy what it was like when he was a kid, because I think, taking people back into their past is a really, really powerful thing to do, particularly if that person at this time when we're speaking to them isn't necessarily where they want to be. And going back into their past is a really powerful thing, because they can go back to and imagine how things used to be. And that's where it can lead into a conversation of, how would it feel if I could help you to get to a place like that again, or back to how you used to feel, that type of thing. So I think it's a really powerful thing to go back into the past, bring it back into the present, and then talk to them about how you can get them back to feeling at that point where they once were, if they're not where they want to be. So yeah, I really like that, mate. Awesome. Thank
you, Brendan. Anybody else with some Someone must have some powerful opening lines that get conversations started.
I'll go again. It's as simple as saying hello. Sometimes if I don't say hello, the conversation won't happen. So it can be as simple as hello, and then, you know, we'll start having a conversation.
That's exactly right. And that might be the easiest thing to do instead of looking into your phone. And like we said at the start, keep it simple and say hello. It's going to start a conversation. So, Rose, do you have...
Hi, sorry, I raised my hand and remember you said I couldn't. You couldn't see it. I was just going to say, James and I have been doing recently is not having our earphones in at the gym. James got forced to because his phone's broken. But that has helped heaps. Like, we now talk to everybody. It's kind of annoying sometimes because you're like, I need to get out and get my workout done. But it's really good because now everyone says hi. So that's one thing. What I was also going to say is compliments. So that's what I've been trying to do, sort of at the gym, but genuine compliments. Not like, oh, I love your purple hair. You don't. So complimenting people on the gym and offering if they need a spot or something like that. Because people did that to me and that made me feel good. So I try to like pick up on things that I like and that I feel good as a human and try to do that back without being a crazy network marketer, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. And we all like to be complimented, and especially when it's heartfelt compliment. So it's always going to be the way to go. So Maxine, have you got an opening line or question?
I don't know if it's particularly an opening line, but it is a question that I would use. Depending on the person and the connection and conversation, I have asked a few people what dreams they're bringing to life in the next few months or, you know, this year, or, you know, just what's happening for them in the way of bringing dreams to life, because it really opens up a conversation about what people actually value and what they want to spend their time doing and what they're actually looking to make happen. And that really sometimes opens up, you know, some kind of vision about getting to know the person better, but also about where we might have a gap or some sort of spot in there for Isagenix in their life, possibly.
Wow, Maxine, I love that. Danny just wrote it down for us, so yeah. That's really good, because that could open up so much, because you don't know where it's going to lead, but it's going to lead to their dreams. It's about them. It's important to them, and that's what we want to do, and that's where we want to go. So, Musa.
Hey guys, hi Danny and Shari and everybody. How you going? I like that,
Good.
Danny. Yeah, I like the 4 questions, and I think what I do as a person is just it's the way I show up. It's my energy when I'm just in my life, wherever I go. It's how I show up and what I'm embodying. If I'm happy, which is pretty much most of the time, I just show up as happy, and that just kind of is a real organic way of just having a conversation with someone, not having an agenda, and just really being, as Nino said, just being really present with them and being engaging, and just sort of just being organic and natural, and whatever energy you're carrying will be what sort of progresses through a conversation. So that's kind of what I do, and yeah, it's awesome just talking to people.
Yeah, and we can all feel your energy, Musa, and you touched on last week how that consistency of going to, you know, the same coffee shop and showing up as that same happy person every morning when you go to get your coffee is going to spark conversation.
Yeah, true, Shari. I mean, we're not always up high, you know, that's not true, but if we keep it up consistently, and then when we go out, it really helps us just be in that momentum, just to feel good. If you're not feeling good, it just helps to take you to that place anyway, and just being there consistently. Because that's just it's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Okay, Sean.
Hello. Hey, Sherry. Hey, Danny.
Hey, mate.
Good to see you too. There's been a few different ways of approaching it being brought up, which is, been the same with Ice Jenny since I started. There's no one way that works. You find the right way for you. For me, it's been listening, so ask and listen, and then really find some pain points over the questions. So, find, when you're listening, find out parts of their life. It may be job, it may be health, it may be, weight loss, anything, sleep patterns, things like that. Then relate and share your situation. So, the feel felt found that we speak about a lot, and, what was wrong in your life and what you found a solution for, and then simply ask them if they'd take a look. So hitting them pain points, and then asking the question, and forget to ask the question if they actually would like to take a look at it. So I have a bit of an agenda here, Melissa, when I'm speaking to them, mate. And and then from there to get their presentation reviewed. So, and really paint the vision. It was touched on before. Paint the vision for them, what it may look like for them, a new vision of what their new life will look like. Positives on them pain points.
Beautiful, Sean. And we are going to move into that after we start finish with these opening questions and opening lines. So that's a good lead into that. We've got a couple more people. Laura. I can't even see Laura. There you are.
I'm on mute. Sorry. I'm just eating my dinner, so I've got my camera off. Just a couple of small things that I have found are working really well for me. Obviously, we've just moved, so we're building a lot of brand new relationships from scratch. And I'm meeting a lot of people in the park because that's something that we do every day. And I've been really focusing on approaching people that maybe I wouldn't necessarily talk to in the park, and just finding really, really simple common ground that is helping lead into a conversation. So, I never have any intentions because they can pick up on that. So just a few examples. I met a mum in the park recently, and her little boy had ringlets just like mine. So I just sort of said, oh my gosh, like our kids have the same hair, that's so rare. I ended up speaking to her for 45 minutes, and now we've got a play date next week. And I was just shopping recently and started chatting to the woman who was helping me buy a really bright pink lipstick for an 80s thing that I had. And so she actually found common ground with me and was talking about, asking about my kids. And then she said, oh, I have a 2-year-old. And in the space of 10 minutes, we ended up talking, and she was talking to me about how tired she was, and she just doesn't feel very well all the time. And so exchanged details with her as well. So sometimes it's just, I know for me, it's such a small connection that sometimes as well, I make myself relatable to them rather than finding something in them that's relatable to me to have a conversation. I know a lot of mums, especially all the time, will be like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And most of the time I'm not really tired because I feel so great all the time, but I'll be like, oh my God, hearing your girlfriends, like I totally know what you mean. It's so exhausting. So then all of a sudden we've got common ground. Our kids are keeping us up. It doesn't seem to matter what age they are. Our kids are keeping us up. And so that leads into a conversation as well. So sometimes it's not necessarily trying to find this huge thing that you guys have in common that you can talk about for hours. It's just a really simple thing that you can use to open a conversation, because such a small thing could lead into so much more. So that was all really.
Thank you, Laura. That had so many gems in it. And going into the conversation with no intentions, just wanting to start a conversation. I think that's really brilliant. And like you said, keeping it simple. They're simple things. You talked about the child's curly hair because you've got curly hair. Like, how simple is that? And now you've got a play date. That's so brilliant. So, Brendan.
Yeah, thanks, guys. They're awesome. I'm going to look back on the recording and use a few of these. And so one that I use and is always a go-to for me, like Musa, it's a mix of Musa and Sean here. There is no intention, but there is as well, if that's possible. And basically one of my go-tos with anyone that I'm having a dynamic conversation with is asking them if they like to travel. And if someone likes to travel, it links in with so much. It opens up so much. So if somebody likes to travel, it causes common ground with me, and I'm sure most people on this call. Because one of the things that network marketing allows us to do is it allows us the flexibility to travel around the world. I got really excited today talking to a number of people on this call about the possibility of being able to live in other locations. So a lot of people get excited by that, and then after I ask if they like to travel and the answer is yes, and it is 99% of the time yes, sometimes someone will say that they don't enjoy it, 99% of the time it's yes, then I ask permission to connect on Facebook, like Musa says, with no intention. And it is genuine that I have no intention, because I actually like seeing in my news feed different locations popping up when people are traveling all around the world. So that is really, really a really great way to connect with someone, to ask if they like to travel. And then from there, I generally keep in touch with the people. So I ask them questions, they see what's happening in my news feed, and then, it generally goes from there. The other thing, and the final thing that I have that is super important, is often people speak to us as well. And the only time that we actually engage with these people is if we are present. So it's important all the time for us to be present, because people are actually asking us questions. Now, an example, and I hope that I'm the first person, this is my goal, to be the first person in the change room to sign up someone this way. So I was walking down the street and I was on my phone, and I was floating away on my phone. I was actually writing to Shari at the time. And this guy snapped me out of it to be present. He said, "Have you caught any, mate?" I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "You caught any Pokemon? Is that what you're playing?" And I said, "Oh no, mate, no. I'm actually writing to someone at the moment." I said, "All my business is done on this phone here now, so it's pretty cool." I said, "I'm writing to one of my friends and business partners." And then he asked me what I was up to. So I think always being present as well with people that are asking us questions can make life even easier, because they're the type of people that we want to work with, because they're actually proactively doing what we do, which is actually ask people questions. So they're the type of people that we want to work with. So it's easy for me to answer that question and say, no, I'm not playing Pokemon Go and keep walking down the street. But I was actually active in having a quality conversation with him. He's Jeff, he works down the street, he works during the night, he's overworked, all of that stuff, just from me asking that question. So conscious of time, so just a couple of points there, guys.
Beautiful. So did you sign him?
I will.
You okay? So that's the challenge that Brendan's just put out. Who can have the first Pokemon in the change room? Who we got?
Tebby.
Mr. Teb.
G'day, guys. How's everyone? Good.
Good.
So what I just recently started at a gym because I needed to find another outlet. They do yoga there, rock climbing. There's a gym there as well, and it's really high energy place. So everyone is really, really encouraging and stuff. So I just started off there and was really encouraging to these random people who were walking on this bit of strap like a tie down, and I started doing it back, and then I built a relationship with a couple of people, and we regularly meet now and build our skills, and now just being enthusiastic to learn more about the other person can lead you to other networks. Like this one girl does like a youth group with a church kind of group, doing like Amazing Race kind of stuff and all that, and just being open to, I'd really love to look into that. That'd be interesting. And then boom, you know, who knows? Like, so just encouragement, enthusiasm is a big one for me. But yeah, that's it.
I love that, Tebby. Like, to be open and to have that enthusiasm for somebody else, and to be open-minded enough to, something's going to be offered and there's always going to be avenues, and why not have a look? It could be the right thing for you. I think that's so brilliant.
That's exactly right. Like, everyone is really different in their interest, and like I find it really interesting when someone wants to give something a go that I'm starting off in or I'm doing. So yeah, that's, I mean, who knows what it could open up to. You might love walking on a bit of material or something, you know, who knows.
Yeah, you're never going to know till you try.
I've got written down here, be curious about people. So I think, Tebby, that's exactly what you're talking about. And all these questions and things, that's what you're trying to do, trying to be curious about people and see where it leads. You never know. It might be an interest for you to pick up.
Okay, so once we've, you know, we've got the conversation going and we're having a chat and we're focusing on the other person, somewhere in that conversation, once we get started, somewhere, who knows when it will be, but at some point the other person is going to ask, well, what do you do? Like Brendan said, you know, he got into the conversation enough that they're going to ask, what do you do? Or they're going to ask, really? You lost that much weight? Like, maybe it's by the time they get onto your Facebook. How did you do that? Or you've got energy all the time. How does that happen? And Sean will know this one. We learnt at IC Uni, we got to listen to Heidi McCallum, whatever her name is, Coach Mac, she calls herself, so we'll just go with that. And she says every time she's asked that question, she simply says, well, you know what? That's a funny story. And that's when everybody asks her a question, she says, that's a funny story. So if someone says to me, Shari, you've got, you know, we're at a party, at a barbecue or something, and someone finally says to me, Shari, you've just got so much energy. How do you always have so much energy? All I need to say is, you know what? That's a funny story. Look, we're busy at the party now, but let's make a time. I'll give you a call tomorrow night and I'll tell you my funny story. So, you know, it's about leaving it there, making a time to tell your funny story, which is really not very funny, but it makes them think, oh, okay, well, you know, what's going on? Well, what do you mean that what's their job? It's a funny story. I wonder what she does if it's a funny story. So, so then that leads to, you know, you don't need to have that conversation there and then. That leads to you booking a time for a coffee or a time for the next chat to tell your story. So that leads into our story, and it leads into the importance of our story. Now, today I was reading a post from Jacinta, and we all know Jacinta's over in Las Vegas having a ball, and poor Jeff's at home looking after the kids, but I'm sure he's having a ball too. And I thought it was really a really important post. And I just wanted to read out what she wrote. And this is about our 30-second story. So Jacinta wrote, how many of your friends, family and people are you connecting with actually know your story? We often tell them about the amazing products, the business, and leave out our story. It's our stories that create meaningful connections and have the most impact. Our struggles before Isagenix are what connect us. We can then offer the solution. So, you know, reading that today, I thought that is so important, and that, you know, brings in that emotional side of being connected to somebody. So we get to tell our story, share our story. And then I was listening to David Wood speak, and he said, you know, he gets asked all the time, so how do I become a millionaire? And he went straight to saying, you become a millionaire by developing your story, writing your story, learning your story, sharing your story, and then following the system. And that's the system that Isagenix presents to us. So our story is such an important part. Now, we're not going to go into our story tonight because we have so much to talk about and so little time. We all know that we can go into Isagenix Business and find out how you write your story. But I just want to pick up another point that David Wood says, that you know, the words to our story are worth 7% when we're sharing it with somebody. The other 93% is our passion and what they feel, our energy, what we project from our story. That's the important part. So when you're writing your story, and you just need to go back to remembering that the words are 7% of what it means to somebody else. When I tell my story, all they're going to remember is, Sherry was so passionate. She just loves this. I don't even really still know what it is, but she loves it, and she's just going to do this forever, and that's all I know. And she feels great about it, and that's what they remember. They don't even remember anything I said in my story, but they remember your passion for it. So, you know, it's an important part. We need to learn and practice and focus on it. Another little teensy bit I want to just point out when we're doing our story is the compliance part of our story. Now, this is simple as well. Basically, you need to write your story with no disease claims, no medical claims, and no income claims. So an example of this is, you can't say you've got insomnia. You need to say you have difficulty sleeping. That's part of your story. You can't say you've got depression. You can say it improves my moods. So, you know, our company looks after us so well, so we need to, you know, abide by the rules, and really they're simple rules. So when you're writing a story, just keep those things in mind. So now we've set up our date, we've set up our time on the phone, and we're going to talk about, so we're finally just going to talk about Isagenix. And Danny's actually going to talk about this because he's had some big learnings in this area of how not to verbal diarrhea on somebody, and how to actually talk about Isagenix when somebody knows nothing about it. So here he goes.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago I had 3 Isagenix conversations a week, which is a lot for me because Sherry's our gun and roller. I do technical support in the background and that sort of thing then, and try my best, but I'm still developing. And my first conversation of the week was a guy I grew up with in Holbrook, and I just hit him with everything I know about Isagenix, about life, about goal setting, about everything. I just plowed him for 45 minutes. And I got to the phone and I said to Sherry, I think I might have overdid it. I think he was dumbfounded in the end. My second conversation for the week was with a guy I played football against, a very well-known footballer, coach, mentor around these parts. And I really look up to the guy, and I come away with a better feeling from it. It wasn't so much about Isagenix, it was about Sherry's life coaching business and the things that we've got going forward. So it was a better conversation. I improved. But I actually reached out to Brendan because I needed some help. And that's one thing, when you need help, you reach out to people who actually know what you need. So just ask. That's the great thing about this company. So I did. And he gave me some clear pointers on where I might have been going wrong and what he tried to do, actually, what he tries to do. And the biggest thing I took away from the start was he asked, let the person talk. Just let them explain what's going on in their world, what they're missing, you know, how they felt in the past. You can do the cake recipe thing that Jackson Parr prescribes to. You can take them forward and take them back and bring them back to the current moment, all those sort of things. We've been doing some subconscious stuff lately. We're heading towards NLP training. I think the more you get a person an opportunity to dig deeper in themselves and express themselves more, the closer they get to the emotional heart of the issue and closer they are to committing to change, if for want of a better term. And then Brendan said at the end, you start sliding and saying, look, without using the term solution, say, push in there, I've got a solution that we can get going for you. And what really triggered my mind is when Brendan said to me, relate it to your building. I work in building, and he said, imagine if you're talking to a client and you start talking about the bricks and you start talking about the concrete. And I thought about that for a second and I went, you know what, that's what I did. Basically, imagine a client saying to me, I want to build a house. And I start raving on about the concrete and then the bricks and what we can do in the roof, and then we can put tiles up there, with gyprock and insulation and orientation to the sun and rave, blah, blah, blah. It would just swamp the poor person. Imagine how the conversation would go if a person said to me, I want to build a house. And I said, well, describe your house to me. What's wrong with your old house? What's your dreams that you want to have in this house? Tell me all about it in great detail. And then we get to the end of it, I say, okay, let's put together a bit of a plan and we'll get some costings on it and we'll move forward with your passion. That'll be that's a totally different conversation to the stuff that I was doing. And on Sunday before, I had another conversation. There was a friend of mine who knows full well what I do, and I implemented some of these things and let her talk and let her explain what was going on in the world, and I finished that conversation with a sign up, and that's how far I can come so pretty quickly by purely listening and developing an approach. So I want to throw it open to the team. Is there any approaches that you guys use that you just find successful?
Can I say something, Shari and Danny? Emily.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You guys, I've got like a whole page of notes here. Thanks, everybody. I'm loving all the new tips that you just keep learning every week. So what I just wanted to talk about, and I debated whether to say or not, is if we can come from a place where the vessel of change for that person. So basically, manifestations for other people can come only through people. So as you're going about talking to people, if you can sort of remove yourself and know that the solution to whatever's this person's been wishing and dreaming for in their darkest kind of hour is about to come through you for them, I think that you can sort of remove yourself and it's more about them. It's been a lot of girls that I've been talking to lately which are in a group, a manifest group. So they sort of understand this principle. And so I can sort of get straight to the point with them and say, you know that you've manifested me into your life to bring this solution to you. You did this. So now it's just up to you to learn whether this is for you or not. And if you can trust yourself to present in that way, and if you're speaking to someone who can receive that and know that they've called it into their life through you, they've called you into their life to bring this solution to them, because that's the way it all works. Like the Pokemon guy, he manifested Brendan being there at that very moment in order to present this opportunity to him. So it's just about Brendan being an open vessel to get the information through to this guy. And if this guy is not in resistance, is not pushing away a solution, is open enough to receive it, then it'll just connect and work and it'll happen. So I just wanted to add that in there. I don't know whether it's a bit out there, but I just wondered if you can sit in that space of knowing that you're providing a solution. It's not from you. It's not you giving it to someone. It's through you, that it's coming to them via you, not from you. Does that make sense? I don't know whether that makes sense.
Thank you, Emily. That makes total sense, and that's so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. We're actually going to just keep moving a little bit forward. I know people probably have a lot to share, but we're just going to go to the last bit because I'm just very aware of the time. So the last bit after having our conversations, talking about Isagenix, maybe this is a part that people find confronting, and people that have never been maybe in a traditional sales job find confronting, is the close. You know, how are you going to get people? You've had great conversations, you know, you've talked about all the right things, but how are you going to finish this? How are you going to get them over the line? So this is the part that I am going to open up to the group on their close. So, you know, some of the suggestions are simply say, so do you have enough information to make a decision today? That's a close. It makes, you know, them say, well, actually, I'd like to know this, or, you know what, I think I am. It makes them give you a decision, and so let's open it up and see if anybody's got some. I know Brendan's got some good closes, and another Isagenix suggestion they say, you know, are you ready to let Isagenix be a part of you? Okay, Brendan, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, thank you. And I must quickly say, what a sensational job you guys are doing, and thank you for engaging us as well, because it makes this call so much better if everyone's been able to put their hand up, particularly, you know, and I encourage the people who are early on in the calls, if you've got any questions, this is a really, really safe environment as well, and you guys are presenting it as that. So I know sometimes it can be scary. I used to be so scared to speak in front of this. I know Shari did, and you know, so it's a really safe environment, really cool one. Anyway, as well, Danny, thank you, mate, for that building analogy. When we spoke on the phone the other day, I've never done anything to build a house, so I thought I got myself in hot water there when I was going down that pathway with that analogy, but I'm glad it came off. Yeah, so basically for me, really quickly, I think that how I get the confidence to do a close has nothing to do with what I actually say at the close. This is just me personally. It's actually all of the information that I speak to the person about and speak with the person about in order to build their trust. So I'll speak to someone for sometimes 45 minutes on the phone, because that is no sacrifice in my life, because I enjoy talking to people anyway about anything to do other than Isagenix, right? And I'm really interested in that person. So then at the end of the conversation, most of the signups that I do now, we've actually hardly spoken about Isagenix. We've spoken about what they want in their life. And then at the end of it, I say to them, do you trust me? You know, and that's a really powerful thing to say to someone, because I actually ask them if they trust me, because after speaking for 45 minutes with someone and really being engaged and present and interested in that person, most of the time they will say yes. And I say, well, would you like to work together with me in order to get your solution? And they still don't even know if it's Isagenix. They still don't even know like what this program is, how much it costs. They have committed to saying yes, and then it's just a matter of getting them started from there. It's going through the formalities. So that's what I've found, and it's taken me a long time to get to that point, but that's basically how I do every single sign up or every single person I introduce to Isagenix. My closing question gets to the point of, do you trust me? Because I have the confidence that they will trust me when I ask that question. So that's how I go about things now.
Wow, I love that. Do you trust me? How simple is that? It's complicated too, but it's very simple words, isn't it? I like it. Okay, Musa.
Thanks again, guys. That was brilliant, Bren. Absolutely, mate. It's to me, trust is the foundation of life, really. You trust yourself, you're able to trust everybody else. And it's not so much how I close, because I'm still learning all that. It's more about detaching from the outcome. Simply detaching any form of detaching from the outcome completely, so that it's just free of resistance, and the energy isn't causing that kind of friction in the field, if you will. And that's kind of like, if you detach from it, most of the time they'll be attracted to that just by energy-wise. I mean, I'm talking a lot in energy, I know, but for me, that's what it is. If you detach from any outcome, it's usually a good outcome. And establishing trust, as Brendan's saying, is the key, because that's how it all rolls, you know. That's what we love. We love trust. And, yeah, that's just what I would do. Cheers.
Perfect, Musa. Taking that energy right the way through, the energy we started with, we also need to end with. I think that's beautiful. So, Tom Walters.
Hey guys, hope everyone's having a good night. Can you hear me all right? Awesome. Yeah, I agree with what Brendan has to say about the build-up, guys. I think probably the way that I've been able to get more people started, or get started in the best possible manner, has been when I have taken the time. I think when I take the time to go through like the Jackson Parr why the cake formula, and I really get deep into why someone wants to make a change, I think they then start to trust me, because they don't get asked those types of questions at all. So I'm going so deep with why they really want it, and I'm listening, and I'm keep asking them, and I'm just encouraging them. I'm trying to just be that person that listens more. And then by the end of it, they're just like, wow, like, this guy actually gives a shit about asking these questions. He must really care to take the time to do this. And I'm finding that when I do that, I have a much better, I guess, closing kind of rate, versus previously what I used to do is I would dive in a lot more and not take that time. And then I faced a lot more, I guess, objections or not wanting to get started there and then. But when I do that process of really spending the 30 minutes asking people or longer why they really want to do it and running through the questions, then when I can get to the end, I just say, hey, like, you know, awesome. You know, are you excited about making this change? And they're so pumped, because they're so clear. They're so focused on what they really want and why they want it. And they're just like, yeah, I'm super pumped. And I'm like, okay, awesome. So are you ready to get started? Okay, awesome. You know, do you have any more questions, or are you ready to get started? And then if they have questions, then I can just start to answer those questions. And I go, awesome. Does that answer your question? Well, they're like, yeah, cool. Awesome. You're ready to get started now. And just keep repeating that process until they're ready to get started. You know, answer any minor questions. But sometimes I think to close it, even if I don't close it there and then, if I've done the build up, then I can close them later on, if that makes sense. That helps, guys.
Yeah, that helps a lot. And, you know, the big point of taking the time, that's when the goal's going to come. You've just taken the time, you've been so interested in them, the energy's going to work all the way through. And when it's time to close or to sign them up or find the solution, it's going to be right. So that's really going to work. Okay, now we're going to go to Jamie.
Yeah, g'day guys. Pretty much everyone said what I was going to say, which is pretty much like the cake recipe is definitely a good way to be genuine and not feel like you're trying to talk someone into something, because it really is an open conversation. But the only thing that I like to do at the end when I close, and I did this on Saturday, is after you've asked them all of these questions and they've answered it, then I usually just throw it back at them and just say, where do we go from here? And then just leave it, and then they will tell you. And if they're not quite ready, well, then you can follow it up with another question, something like that, and keep going. But usually, if say, like the lady on Saturday said, well, where do we go from here? And she says, well, what do I have to do to get started? And I said, okay, well then all we need to do is this. And then she filled out the form on the boot of my car, and away we went. But yeah, it's like I always say, it's just about keeping it simple, very simple. We're just people. That's all I've got.
Perfect, Jamie. That's great. Where do we go from here? I love that. That puts it back onto them, and they can direct what needs to happen. If there needs to be more questions to be answered, more time to think, whatever they need, they can then ask for, and it gives them permission to do that. Beautiful. So
yeah, it just takes away the stress.
Sorry, I missed that. Sorry,
so it just takes away the stress of trying to, get caught up in whether you're going to connect with someone or not. Just throw it back.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Now we're going to go to Tom Walden.
Hello, how are you? Doing an awesome job, guys. It's great to have you on. Everyone's really answered so many things. I just love to reiterate the fact that it's just all about the positive impact that we add to people through the conversation. So Danny mentioned it before, and he utilised the cake recipe a fair bit as well. But a lot of the times when you bring it back and you've made a really, really good impact in the conversation you've had, you've taken a really good interest in where they are, what their pain might be, how you can turn around, and you can really add that extra impact to them. Then you can really ask them at the end and say, look, President's Pack is the very best place to get you started. This will meet your goals. Are you ready to go? Or you can simply say, sometimes if you feel that in the conversation that it's not quite there, you could just say to them, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you sit? 10 being wanting getting started now, 1 not interested at all, where do you think you fit? And they'll soon tell you. And if they say a 7, you can easily say, look, what would it take you? What other questions could I answer for you to get you to a 10? And it's just adding that value continually all the time. But I think it's great. I think the cake recipe is amazing. But I think we should always remember too that to be able to utilise those three-way calls, to be able to keep that system really, really simple so that people can come straight in, and you can use someone to leverage those skills so they can do, because there's a lot of new people on the call. So if we can leverage those skills with someone like Brendan, someone like Shari, someone like Tommy Walters, there's a lot of people on here, leverage those amazing skills and then come through, and then we can have that finish off to start at the end. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense, but it was just basically what everyone else said, which is cool. So everyone's on the right path. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Tom. I love that digging that little bit deeper, where do you sit? And then they once again get to lead the way in. Do they need more? They need some extra. Okay, now we're going to go to Shawnee. Where are you? Oh, there you are.
Hey, so yeah, there's a couple there. The cake recipe's brilliant. Recently though, I fell the other way on that one. I maybe overused it. So at times, people really don't want anything too confusing, or they don't want anything too deep. A lot of times, if you're showing up on social media and things like that, they simply just want what Ice Jennies can do for them more so than they're a shake. We take supplements. We take a cleanse day every 7 days. These sorts of things. So I really found at times, saying less to more people, and really using, if I will you all the time. If I will you, and it's a yes or no sort of answers. And it's towards the end, if you, someone's, I've got a solution for this. This may or may not help you. I always like to use that. It's a 30-day trial. Would you give it a go? They're like, yes. Well, then you say, well, what we do next? So what we do next, and then we go through the President's Pack. And if there's a money objection, well, then, there's times we can go back and ask, what they're spending during the day. But I don't want to go too far into that. But, yeah, for closing, Shari, I like the what we do next. And you're the professional sort of letting them know because you're involved in Isogenics and you've utilised it, and they've obviously seen results in you. So always be confident to tell them what we do next, because the President's Pact, as Tom said, is how we get started, and it's the best way to set someone up. And if you're looking to help people, then you've got to make sure that we give them the best experience that we know possible, and that's how we do it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sean. And I think that's a really good point, is we need to judge each individual person on what they need. And some people don't need us to dig. And so I think that's a really good point, Sean, that, you really need to take a gauge from each person and the energy they bring and how they want to move forward. No good pushing ourselves onto them when they're not after that. So that's a really good point. And I love, and Emily wrote it too, saying less to more people. It's a really good statement, really good. So we're going to have a last quick one from Brendan.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm being a bit of a mic hog tonight, but I'm really passionate about this. This is fantastic. So, Shaz, what you said there before, and because there's cake recipes, there's the Isogenics products, and I always think to myself, why are some people successful and other people aren't so successful? And in Australia, and I think around the world, there is a BS radar, right? And people can smell BS from a mile away, right? So basically, every single recipe or whatever we have available to us is irrelevant if we don't believe in it ourselves. So the amount of times that I have got people started purely, and this is why I'm talking about this here right now, because it's important for the new people on the call, because it's important to understand that we are not salespeople. We are not at all salespeople, and we do not want to find techniques to get people started to make money, ever. And it doesn't come across like that at all, but I just want to make it very clear. And what is so important is that what we're doing is we're sharing something to make a difference in somebody's lives. And 95% of the people who actually earn any money in this do it because they begin accidentally because of the fact that they've had such a great experience themselves. So what's so important is that when we're having a conversation with someone, we need to have in our mind and truly believe it that they are going, if we can help them with our passion to get started on this, they are going to have a potentially life-changing experience. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we don't go back into our shell. We actually project our passion onto them, that we care for them, and we actually really want them to do this so that they can have a magnificent experience and provide the solution that they're after. And it comes down to, and I'm speaking like I speak to people on the phone. This is exactly how I speak to people on the phone. And as Sherry said, it's 7% of what comes out of our mouth, and 93%, it's 100, yeah, Sherry? 93% as to how we say it. And it's so true. And that's how I've got 172 people started on this program. And I'm going to get 172 people started in the next 6 months on that Fired Up, because it is so life-changing in what we can actually do. So I'm just wanted to make it important that the only people that will see success are the people who believe that the people that they are talking to, that they can actually provide something that can change their life.
Absolutely. Thank you for finishing us off on that brilliant note, Brendan. Now, before everybody goes, I know that we've just gone an hour, but I'm just going to spend the next 30 seconds talking about the $1 Million Challenge. So this amazing company has put up another challenge, another opportunity for us. So everybody needs to go in to contests and promotions, and you need to opt in to register for this. This is not going to be an automatic thing, and we all need to do this because the offerings that I've put up are so easy and it's so much fun. So why wouldn't we want to do it? You know, to get a prize, so per month, to get just one prize, you just need 10 points. So you need to enroll 2 people, or, you know, do a couple of things. It's not even that much, and you could get a drink bottle or something. If you earn over the 5 months that it's running for, if you get above 50 points, so that's in 5 months, you're at least going to get your name on the Wall of Fame at Isagenix. So that's pretty cool, and that's lots of fun, and there's lots and lots of cash prizes, obviously $1 million up for, so let's have some fun, but you know, you're not going to be in the fun unless you opt in. It's just ticking the box. Simple. Done. Well, thank you everybody for tonight, and have a good rest of the evening.
Well done, Shari. Thanks, Danny. Have a good week.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, guys, for all your help.
Thank you.
Awesome call. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks. See you.